be a rail infrastructure deal that will be struck between the United States, Saudi Arabia, UAE and India on the sidelines of the G20. This is a land connectivity project. They've been talking about this for a while, but I think it's fascinating how global strategies are at play, how geopolitics is at play, that India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia and the United States are all coming together to ink this land connectivity deal. It'll be a rail connectivity as well as port connectivity deal that will be signed on the sidelines of the G20. I'll try and see if we can go across to my colleague Siddhant, who has more details on this. Remember, India is already part of what they call the I2U2, which is Israel, India, the United States and the United Arab Emirates. Now, to have the Saudis also join along with the Emiratis, and India will be signing this mega rail and port project along with the United States. I think it shows in a fascinating way in that theater, which is the Middle East, how dynamics are changing. I think it's quite fascinating because you have seen the efforts put in by, for example, China in the recent past to try and bring some of these warring factions, Saudi Arabia and Iran, together, for example. But India not to be left behind, and clearly the United States not to be left behind, will be sort of shepherding and pioneering this land connectivity project. So let me ask Maximilian Hess this: how important a deal is this for India? India has been trying for a number of years through Chabahar in Iran, and now we have this whole announcement in Greece. India has been trying to get connectivity into Central Asia, beyond Turkey, into Europe through the Mediterranean. But this land connectivity project between India, UAE, Saudi Arabia and the United States, strategically, how important is it? And also, what's the signal it is sending to Beijing and to Moscow?
Certainly. I think, you get to exactly the right point there with emphasizing on strategically. Indian economic relations with the Gulf countries in particular have already grown tremendously over the last 2 decades, show strong continued growth trends going forward. Where this is really important is about building up economic ties in that region, in interdependence. In Washington's view in particular, this is meant to be a sweetener to help bring Israel on board, help advance the prospects of another so-called Abraham Accord, hoping to normalize relationships between Israel and Saudi Arabia. That is something that the Biden administration certainly sees as a priority for the remaining 18 months or so in his first term, and a potential booster to his re-election prospects, as well as important for dealing with the oil market. But for India, I think this is really significant in showing that it can be a major player in these geopolitical issues in the region as well as an economic trade partner, and sort of using that strong economic basis, those growing relations there, to step up its involvement and have a seat at the table in one of the world's most volatile regions, and one that has huge strategic importance for India as well.
Siddhant is also joining us, my colleague, who's giving us this information about this potential deal, this agreement that could be signed on the sidelines of the G20. The fact that this is a land connectivity project, both rail as well as port connectivity, Siddhant, in 4 countries who have a lot of agreements, who have a lot of commonalities, but this is the time and age that we live in, and it's best encapsulated by this coming together of the United States, Saudi Arabia, UAE and India for a land connectivity project. The question that I asked Maximilian Hess as well, at a time when China is trying to make serious inroads into the Middle East, what is the intent behind this agreement, and how may this be of strategic value to India as it seeks forays into the Middle East?
Well, that's right. So, Zaka, if you remember, first of all, this is to the best of my knowledge, and perhaps I've spoken to people from Saudi Arabia, and they are confirming this to me off the record, Zaka. Let me put it this way: they have confirmed me off the record. Perhaps 2 senior level diplomats have confirmed this to me off the record, that yes, there is going to be some sort of an agreement, or perhaps signing of an agreement, or locking the deal to get locked, this entire rail infrastructure project, which is going to connect Saudi Arabia, UAE, India. and America is playing a very crucial role in this. And if you remember, Zaka, there was a lot of criticism of America for changing changing the goalpost from Gulf to Indo-Pacific, and at that point in time there was a visit of Jake Sullivan to Gulf, where National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Jake Sullivan from American side, and representatives from Saudi Arabia and UAE, and if I'm not mistaken, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was also present, and perhaps NSA Doval met Mohammed bin Salman, where for the first time discussion on this railway network happened in Saudi Arabia. This time around, we are getting this confirmation that that the leaders can announce this deal, or perhaps announcement of coming together to build this rail network. It's one of the biggest breaking that we are getting for our viewers, Zaka, and perhaps the Saudi diplomats have confirmed this to us off the record, that yes, this is going to happen when the leaders will meet, when the leaders will discuss, and post that there could be an announcement. Now, Zaka, when is it going to happen? I cannot confirm that, because they are giving me two timings. One, it could happen today, and one, it could happen tomorrow, because tomorrow late evening perhaps President Biden is going to leave for Vietnam. So whatever will happen before that. But it's the biggest breaking that we're getting for our viewers, that there is going to be a major development with regard to the railway line, this entire infrastructure project, which is going to connect Saudi Arabia, UAE, and could perhaps increase India's and can make India's connectivity better to the Gulf nations.